Hello and welcome to Agrestal Vestige, where we are vested in all things Agrestal. My name is Tom, and I'm here yet again this week with another blended Scotch whiskey. What do we have this week? Hey, we've got the Dimple Pinch. Now, the Dimple Pinch is from the John Haig & Company in Edinburgh, Scotland. It is bottled at 40%. The John Haig & Company, Haig whiskey, is probably the oldest in the world. So let's give this a try. The Dimple Pinch. Aged 15 years. So we'll see how that is. I don't know the proportion of malts to grain whiskeys in here, but this is not a single malt, 15-year age statement blended Scotch whiskey. And it looks like there is a bit of caramel E150 coloring added here, so that'll affect the flavor. And no doubt that it's chill filtered through several plate coolers. Anyway, the bottle is quite interesting. It's a triangular bottle. There's other people who make the tall triangular bottles, but the short squatty bottle was made because of carrying whiskey on ships many years ago. Because if you had a rounded bottle, the bottle would turn over. It would roll because of the motion of the ship, break it, no more whiskey for you. These bottles, they would lay down like this, therefore they wouldn't roll. They would, and it's lovely. However, these bottles were quite difficult to grab hold to because you could drop them because of the odd shape. This is why, if you see this little golden thread that they put on here, that kind of emulates what they did originally, which was put like a mesh wire around the bottle. Therefore, when you grab it, that give you a resistance, a grip, that mesh wire, and you could handle the whiskey with no problem. But it's quite interesting. It's a beautiful bottle. Also, strangely enough, this is the most common bottle that miniature people who make miniature ships and all use for ships in a bottle. Interesting. Well, neat little story. Now let's get to the whiskey. On the nose, bananas, honey, pear. It does have some malt notes there. A bit of green apple, dandelion actually. Slight caramel. Very slight vanilla. And almost like the kitchen spice, the Chinese 5 spices, I think it's called. A hint of that sort of spice in the background. All right, on the palate. The grain comes out. Initially, you get like a caramel malty apple butter type of flavor, and you get the malted barley, you get the toffee, but the arrival comes up with like a sweet grain, and then it kind of turns into that real harsh, grainy note. It actually reminds me of the grain sweetness on this reminds me of a graham cracker. Interesting. Yeah, that sweetness on the palate, it transitions. It transitioned to a very grainy, almost. You know, I said apple butter, but it almost transitioned to an apple cider. I mean, the arrival, development, and finish is really short, really. On the finish, you get just a hint of peat, like you took this bottle and walked it past a pile of peat. It's very distancy. On the finish, you get real burnt type characteristic, like a burn. Like if you had fudge brownies in a pan and you overcooked them, that burnt fudge, I guess you could say burnt caramel too. There's a touch of salt, oddly enough. Maybe sea salt, but it's definitely there. You get a touch of the malt, touch of the oak, and I don't know. We're going to add a little water to that, even though it's only 40%. I want to see how it develops. 40%, with it being real grain rich like that, I think I'm going to add about 2 milliliters of water. 1, 2. And I want to see if that releases anything and brings out any of the flavors from the oils trapped by the alcohol. It did a little. Actually, the banana is really more prominent after adding the water. The honey a little bit more prominent. What is that? Is that Chinese 5 spices? I don't know if you're familiar with it or if you use it, but you know, if you're in the market next time and you're there where the spices are, if you see a bottle of the Chinese 5 spices, pick it up and smell it. That's what this is. All right, the palate after adding the water. Yeah, caramel there. Arrival of the apple butter again. Toffee. Maybe that drive-by peat. A little bit of spiciness come back out this time. A little bit more spiciness after adding the water than we had before, but that spiciness, it transitioned, like I said before. It's even more prominent after adding the water. That spice transitions into a vinegar, like an apple cider vinegar, and the finish is still very short. And that burnt that burnt fudge that I was talking about, and the burnt fudge, burnt caramel, it's a little bit more distinctive. But the thing I've noticed now in the finish, after adding the water, you get a distinct staleness that wasn't there before. It's not a complex whiskey. Unfortunately, it's a very grain-rich whiskey. I don't know the ratio of grains to malt, but it's better than a lot of blended Scotch whiskies out there, and it's worse than a lot of them. There's nothing that really stands out. It doesn't have, it's not very well blended. It's almost like you get this type of characteristic a lot of times when you blend really quickly your malts and grains, and you don't do it slowly over several days. That's what it tastes like to me. Marks out of 100 for this. Honestly, it has some interesting notes. It has more flavor notes than a lot of the more simple blended Scotch whiskies that we have gone through on this channel. However, the way it's melded together could be much better. And even though at a 15-year age statement, and that really is odd to me, that everything that means if you have an age statement, that means that there can be whiskeys in here over 15 years, but the youngest whiskey in this bottle is 15 years. So with everything in this bottle being at least 15 years maturated or older, it's very raw tasting to me. It's my opinion. And marks out of 100 for this, honestly, I would give it an 82. I would. Even though there's a lot of unique things going on, but all the things going on in here are combative. They're antagonistic. They don't meld well together. So I would give this 82 out of 100 for a blended Scotch whiskey. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for today. The Hague's The Dimpled Pinch. If you're interested, it's worth trying. You should try it at least once. It's unique, to say the least. Until next time, this is Tom. See you later.